Good afternoon. We're back for our next departmental budget discussion. Before I start, I'm David Briley, and I'm Mayor of Nashville. I'm joined by Talia Lomax O'Neill, the Finance Director, and Emily Piscini, who's the Chief of Staff here in the Mayor's office. Before we dive into next year's budget, I just wanted to make a couple of comments about last year. Last year's budget process was unique in a couple of ways, and unexpected, I guess, would be a fair way to put it. But we tightened our budget and tightened our belt in the last year and lived within our means. And as a result of that and some growth in revenues over the last 12 months, we're now in a position to do a 3% cost of living adjustment in this year's budget, as well as open range and step increases for our employees. And that's a sign of the fact that they deserve an increase in their compensation, and we appreciate their hard work for the city. Our next budget discussion is with Public Works today. Mr. Sturdivant, if you would introduce yourself and your colleagues who are with you, and save a little bit of time at the end for questions.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Finance Director, and Chief of Staff. I want to thank you for inviting us here today. I'm Mark Sturdivant, the Director of the Public Works Department. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the other staff people that are here today. We have Assistant Director Sharon Smith, who's on my left. We have Deputy Director Sharon Wallstrom, who's on my right. We also have Philip Jones and Jeff Hammond here today, who are our Assistant Directors. Courtney Stone is our Communications Director. Kristen Cumrow is our Finance Manager. And Billy Fields heads up our Transportation Licensing Division. I'd like to start today, Mayor, by thanking you for your commitment to funding the cost of living adjustments. Our Public Works employees literally are working night and day to help ensure the ability to safely travel our roads, sidewalks, bridges, and bikeways. They collect trash, recycling, brush, storm debris. They salt roads, fix potholes, provide traffic calming, clean downtown, install and repair signs and signals, which are just a few of the services that our dedicated employees provide, and they deserve to be rewarded, and we really do thank you and appreciate it. So it seems that in Nashville, each year is busier than last, and 2018 was no exception. And here's just a few of our achievements from last year. We received accreditation from the American Public Works Association. This was a big deal for us. Our staff worked tirelessly to draft and review practices and procedures and endured a rigorous evaluation process. And ultimately, this accreditation signifies that our employees in our department have received acknowledgement from the national organization that they're professionals in their fields. We paved 240 lane miles since last January. We issued over 36,000 right-of-way permits. We filled nearly 43,000 potholes, and we assisted with 670 community cleanups, and we fielded nearly 86% of the Hub Nashville cases. Over the last 3 years, we've received additional money for several new services and initiatives. Last year, we received the remaining funding for the USD annexation process in the council member Van Rees, Pridemore, and Anthony Davis districts. We installed 977 streetlights. We began providing trash and recycling services in October for over 6,700 residents. We also received funding for 2 transportation-related engineers. These positions were filled by a new engineer responsible for the traffic calming program and another engineer who's working on capital projects related to transportation. 2 years ago, we began working closely with Metro, ITS, the Mayor's office to launch Hub Nashville. And not surprisingly, making it easier to reach out to Metro government has led to far more residents reaching out to Metro government. In February last year, the hub received just under 7,000 requests, and in February this year, the hub received just under 12,000, so that's a 5,000 request increase over 1 year. So for this meeting today, you asked us to address three things. First, with regard to our 2018-2019 targeted savings, we're going to meet our savings goal, and that's thanks in large part to the work of Sharon Wallstrom. There aren't many as frugal as Sharon. Sharon's nickname at Public Works is Sharon the Wall Wallstrom, and Sharon's it every day. So the second thing, this year we submitted several suggestions to the Blue Ribbon Commission. In summary, we had cost avoidance suggestions regarding additional engineering staff to replace A&E contractors in the areas of permits, sidewalk programming, development services, and traffic signals programming. We had a revenue increase suggestion, raising backdoor paid collection rates to cover current costs. That would be a $5 increase. And then we had a cost savings recommendation to replace an expiring trash collection contractor with Public Works employees, and we think that would save approximately $500,000 per year. We also submitted several items for mandatory or required budget improvements. We have annual contractual increases for trash collection, trash disposal, brush processing, mulching. We also have increases in the partially funded current recycling program from once a month to every other week in the USD. New facility expenses for the Ezel Pike Convenience Center. We have staffing needs there and additional staffing for the expanded Hub Nashville. We have regulatory requirement expenses related to transportation licensing, to special events and mass traffic, solid waste collection, signs and signals, and right-of-way. So, Mayor, that's a really brief summary of our requests. And if you'd like to ask us questions or discuss, we're glad to help.
Diane?
In just a moment, talking about Hub,
Okay.
because there is a request in here for Hub staffing.
All right.
Can I do that?
Sure.
Okay, whichever you want to take that.
So in the hub, we've seen an increase, particularly towards the end of last year and beginning this year, a significant increase in this month, March, which we would kind of had expected to start a slowdown. We're still on target to be very close to what February was. So we're really needing to have 2 more people in the hub. Our original thought was that we would have 1 FTE to start at the beginning of the fiscal year and the second FTE to start halfway through. But we submitted that before we saw such a big jump. So we really would like to have 2 FTEs, if at all possible, at the beginning of the year to help us kind of address these. We're seeing a increase month over month over the requests, not just the phone calls coming in, but also people that are using the apps, people that are using the online forms. And so while call takers are busy answering calls, they're also having to try and handle the queues with all of the requests that are coming in via the web and via the app. And it would be a huge benefit to have a little more staff.
Seems very popular.
I'm curious as to, because your volume is like through the roof.
Yes, it's very exciting.
How were people getting to you before?
So
How were the requests getting to you before there was a hub?
I think we're getting requests that we never got before because people didn't realize they could do it, and making it so easy. So now when people call, and also we're taking calls for other departments that we weren't before. So we're taking codes calls, for example, that before went directly to codes. Of course, some people are still calling codes, but when we get the calls, we're able to enter it into the software, get it directly over to them, which allows the mayor, which allows the resident who submitted their request to also see on the dashboard and track what's happening. So first of all, we're taking calls from more departments, and secondly, more people are calling in with requests with information, for information, et cetera.
But it was the call center.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just the old, call Public Works.
I just remember a lot of years ago, people didn't know where to call.
Yeah.
There wasn't a single point of entry.
Right.
And so they would just start dialing numbers out of the phone book and see if they got lucky,
Get
right?
somebody. Yeah.
So that's a huge accomplishment. And I did have another question. Annexation, you mentioned the council members that did take you up on that. Now I'm hearing chatter about others being interested. Could you just share what that process would be if other council members wanted to entertain going through that process again?
Well, I mean, I think the
Yeah.
process we went through last
It
time
was,
was to, hold some public meetings and check on, if there's consensus in an area that wants it. And then, we ran the financial models to see what the cost benefit would be. And, then just see if the council people in the communities want to do it.
okay.
It started out much larger when we first.
I'm hearing that some may be interested again now about starting that conversation.
Well, I don't know what kind of feedback you got, but I think it went pretty smoothly.
I did too. I think that's why they're coming now.
And so, I think it's just a methodical process where you go through to see if people really want it. I think there could probably be a lot of interest in it.
Okay.
I have a few questions. So, on the revenue side, the temporary street closure permits is, the budget for the current fiscal year is $4 million, and it's anticipated to go down by, I don't know, almost 40% to $2.5 million next year. Why is that?
The number of calls or the number of permits being pulled for the temporary street closures has dropped. Last year, we were averaging about 300,000 a month, and this year we're only averaging about 200,000 a month. So
And why is that?
we really just, construction in some of those areas has dropped. People are maybe not aware that they need to pull the permits. We have a lot of new people coming in to build, and there's just could be a lot of different reasons. It's not necessarily a result of anything that Public Works has or hasn't done. It's just the nature of the industry on the external side.
And refresh me, my recollection, the charge per day or whatever that we do for street closures, have we altered that recently, or is it remained the same?
It was altered 3 years ago, and it has not been altered again since.
And is that one of those fees that we're only allowed to charge the cost of administering the program?
Yes, it is.
And we've asked the law department to look at that closely to see what how broadly we could define costs of administering the program.
And we had a professional study done on this too, an external study a couple of years ago, and they came back with the cost, and we were in line with most of the things that they looked at.
Okay.
So.
For the larger projects, the fees seem really low.
That we are charging people.
Right, in comparison to what they're building.
Well, I mean, clearly there's a cost outside of the person processing the permit. I mean, there's a cost to people who have to cross the street. There's a cost to people who are inconvenienced, or their business doesn't do as well. I mean, there are all kinds of other costs associated with closing streets. So at any rate, I think we probably ought to look at that again at some point. Then on the, I'll lump all these together. On the budget modification, number 4, 6, and 10, and 21 are all increases associated with areas where the city is currently contracting outside for services that could be internal as opposed to external. And then on numbers 1, 2, 4, and 5 on the blue ribbon are all indications, I think, that if we did those first 4 I gave that listed, that we actually would save money. Is that, I think that we're currently, the way I understand it at least, we might be saving capital money, but we'd have to expend operating money to do that. Is that a fair assessment?
That's correct.
But overall, if you pull all our money together as a community and that we're spending for these endeavors, we would save money if we shifted it from the capital to the operating side. Is that fair?
Yep, I think so.
And if you had to, I think there are several areas here. There's permit inspection, sidewalk program, development services, and I didn't see paving, but maybe paving is in there too. If you had to select one that would be where you thought you could immediately start to do that, which one would you prioritize?
The way I like to look at it is if we're paying a contractor to work for us full-time, it's obviously probably better to have an employee do that. And so our sidewalk program is such that we do have contractors working full-time, and I think that's probably where we would start.
And these are not contractors, those are actually,
And permits would be the other place.
so these are not necessarily folks that are actually doing the construction. It's more on the engineering and management and monitoring the program side, right?
Correct. Yeah, and let me say also that we'll always need contractors at some level. We don't anticipate doing the actual construction where we would have to own or rent construction equipment. So it's mostly on the soft side, the engineering, inspections, and programming, things like that.
And then on the expense side, there's also number 21, which is a departmental staffing study.
Right.
Is that sort of in line with looking at these issues?
It is. It's a direct result of that, and we discussed that with the finance department earlier.
So do you think you're ready to implement any of these other changes, or are you thinking it would be better to start with the departmental staffing study? Or are you ready to do both?
Well, we could be ready. I didn't anticipate you saying that, but
Well, I mean, I think you and I share the sense
Right.
that we both need to look at staffing at Public Works across the board.
Correct.
And we need to transition away from using capital dollars to do some of the things where we could more cost effectively do them in-house.
let me add one thing, and this is kind of a benefit we get from contractors is we really have no more space at Public Works, and we with a few exceptions, we don't have to house contractors. So if we do add employees in the immediate future, we'll have to find, and we could do that through temporary buildings, but we'd have to find.
What about on permitting? Aren't they all located on site?
We have some contractors on site.
Yeah. Do you have any permitting contractors off-site?
No.
So if we started there, that wouldn't be a space issue at least, right?
But that's
Small.
4 or 5 people.
Yeah. Any other questions? Well, all three of you know that one, I'm glad we're going to be expanding the curbside recycling this year to every other week. And also, I think you appreciate that I'm paying attention to Public Works and trying to get us caught up with sort of a lag we have between the pace of development and intensity of development and the resources that we've dedicated to Public Works. And you're not the only department where I'm going to say we can't do it all in 1 year, but we are on a pathway to doing more to get the Public Works Department in line with the requirements of the intense growing community we are.
Well, we are aware of your interest, and we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.